Hey girl, real quick. I'm so excited about the new habit-based fitness app I just launched, and I want to invite you to come check it out because I know it will finally help you stay consistent and see and feel results. The programming was created with you in mind. Come get a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app at trainingforlifeapp.com. I can't wait to see you in there. Okay, let's get into the show. Hey girl, if you're done with dieting and the constant starting and stopping of your healthy habits because, well, life, and you'd rather find a way to train for life instead, then you're in the right place. Hey, I'm Emily, habit and fitness coach and midlife boy mom. I've gone from frustrated dieter to now consistently and confidently living a healthy lifestyle, following the habit hacking systems that I'm now going to teach you. Think of this as atomic habits for women. I'm now helping other midlife moms like you feel and look good in their favorite leggings through all seasons of life, following my habit-based fitness programming. No more dieting, my friend, just training for life. So are you ready to habit hack your health? Then let's do this. You're listening to episode 278 of Habit Hack Your Health. Hey girl, welcome back to the show. I want to check in. How is the new year going for you so far? You know, I shared in our past couple of episodes, I'm taking the whole month of January to reflect on the past year, thinking about this next year and what I want to accomplish. And I want to actually share my 3 words of the year for you. It's hard for me to pick just one. I did 2 last year, which was ask and serve. And it really helped to keep me focused throughout the year. But this year, my words are rest, praise, and rebuild. Doesn't that feel awesome? And I'm working backwards to habit hack this and creating some habits for myself. And of course, we're a healthy habit podcast. So I know a lot of you are working on some habits in relation to your health. I am so excited for you in this journey you're going on, and I'm rooting for you. However, we have such high hopes and expectations of ourselves at the beginning of the year. And I actually have seen this a couple of times over the past couple of weeks, and I wanted to share it with you. This past Friday was actually National Quitters Day. It's the second Friday in January because research shows that many people abandon their New Year resolutions by then. I also heard a study from Strava. It's a running community app. My husband and my youngest son use it because they're both runners. And from that study, their data showed that Quitters Day is usually around January 19th or 19 days after starting a new habit or fitness journey. Now, at the time of this recording, we're airing this episode on January 13th of the new year. But regardless if you're listening to this in the new year or you're starting a new habit and find yourself this many days in, it is easy to give up because, well, life, right? Life happens. Now, we talked last week about a couple of crucial annual habits you don't want to miss as you're goal planning. So make sure to go back and listen to those so you can reverse engineer those goals via your habits. But today is a great day to refresh our memory or really change our mindset on why women have to do habits differently, especially if you have found yourself abandoning those habits to help you reach your goals. And P.S., give yourself some grace if you found yourself doing this. We have all done this. Now, I talk about this more in depth in regards to your healthy habits on my private podcast, Atomic Habits for Women. It's a short 4-episode series where I break down even further the data and sometimes the subjective feelings we have around our health and our habits and give you a system to help you take action with your health via strategy made with you in mind. So go give it a listen. It's at bit.ly/Atomic Habits for Women. It's also linked in the show notes. But today you're going to be reminded for all of the habits you're focused on right now, not just your health, that traditional habit formation doesn't work the same for women, right? You may have found yourself giving up before, I'm doing air quotes, quitter's day. And I'm kind of like, man, that seems so harsh. But, it is true. We often get overwhelmed and life gets in the way, no matter the best of our intentions. So, we're going to refresh our mindsets about why women have to do habits differently, but we're also going to share some solutions on how you can let go of that perfectionist mentality when we often have as we're starting a new routine and life gets in the way and we can't stay consistent. That way we're able to reach our goals, but also we're going to learn a little bit about how you can give yourself permission to bob and weave and pivot your habits as life gets in the way. We go through so many different seasons within a calendar year of our life, so it may not look the same every month, and that's okay. I have the perfect person to do that for you today. Fellow habit expert Monica Packer of the About Progress podcast is on the show. So let me tell you about Monica. Monica is a normal mom and recovering perfectionist who uncovered the truest model to lasting growth. It's progress made practical. So, as a podcaster and coach, she guides women to find sustainable growth by adopting progress over perfection. Monica is a mom of 5, former middle school teacher, sourdough obsessor, and beginning gardener. You can find more about Monica linked in our show notes as well. Now, I know you're really going to love Monica's really gentle and practical approach to habits for women and how you can use some of the strategies she's going to share with us that are pretty simple to implement and really help us with our habits and helping them stick and, like I said, bob and weave throughout the different seasons of your life. Now, make sure to stick to the end of the episode of our interview with Monica, that is, as always, to hear my 3 biggest takeaways, and one of them that I'm personally very excited about implementing this year that Monica suggests that I think is going to be a game changer for all of us. Okay, get your pen and paper ready, maybe take some voice notes. Let's go chat with Monica Packer on why women have to do habits differently. Okay, gang, welcome back to Habit Hack Your Health. I am so glad you are here. Happy New Year. I hope you're coming down from all of the things. This is a very timely episode. I know you're going to just connect with our guest so much today. Monica Packer is here from It's About Progress. Monica, thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you for inviting me.
I am so excited to chat with you today, all about habits and goal setting and why women have to do habits differently. But the first question I ask every guest is, what is your favorite habit hack just saving your life right now?
So, one of my favorite hacks, I don't think is a new thing. Obviously, I'm going to be talking to the choir a lot today and hopefully in some new ways that will add to what you already have. But it's pairing. Like, I just really love making a blah habit feel good by pairing it with something else, whether it be an audiobook, which is my normal go-to, or a pop culture podcast, which is another thing I love to listen to help me do the dishes or put the laundry away and all that stuff. So that is one of my go-tos.
Good. I love that. I love a fun pop culture podcast because I think we get caught up in personal development sometimes, and it's like, I just need something fun just to listen.
Absolutely. And that's why I reserve that podcast in particular for certain tasks that I
Oh,
really don't
yeah.
like to do. And it
Yeah.
helps so much.
Yeah, I don't watch a lot of TV, but when I do, I'll put on trashy TV when I fold laundry, just because I
Absolutely.
do not like laundry.
Yes.
Makes it a little bit more fun. So
Same.
awesome, awesome. Well, briefly tell us a little bit about yourself. What's your story as far as what has led you to what you do today, and more importantly, who you are?
hmm So I am primarily known as a podcaster online, and my podcast is called About Progress, and we're about progress made practical. We focus on personal development outside of perfectionism. And that all began because as a then young mom of 3, I realized that I was stuck on the sidelines of my life thanks to perfectionism. And as part of that, I had lost so much of who I always was and who I had wanted to be. So I had to find other ways to grow, to find myself, to prioritize myself outside of that all or nothing pendulum swing I had been on my entire life. Now, that's when I was approaching 30. Now I'm approaching 40. I've added two more kids to my family, and my life has changed dramatically, but not because I put in dramatic effort every day, but because I've shifted the way I see progress, so that small wins build over time. And, my initial work was a lot about identity and, of course, perfectionism and how to find fulfillment in your life as a busy mom. But along the way, it became very apparent to both me and then later to my clients who I was also helping work through similar things that habits had to come along for the ride.
Mm.
And this is something I had long resisted because of fear. I was that overachieving perfectionist that got majorly burnout. And as part of that, I dealt with some pretty scary mental health crises, including some eating disorders that I almost lost my life to them. And so I just thought habit people were certain kinds of people, like the people I had aspired to be before, like those stereotypical perfectionists who just hustle, 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 give, give, give. I knew the prices I had paid before for that kind of perfectionism, and I didn't think I could pay anymore. So instead, I resorted to the unachieving perfectionism, which is pretty much the same thing as a fear of outcomes, right? Whether you measure up to them or don't. And anyway, this all began what became a years long experiment of trying to figure out how I could apply what I learned about progress outside of perfectionism to habit formation. And now it's been about 6 years of this experiment. And with habit formation in particular, I can honestly say, yes, you can form habits that stick and outside of the all or nothing models that we have been taught and served to us forever. So that's my that's my nutshell but not so nutshell story.
Yeah. I thank you so much for being vulnerable and just sharing that with us as well, because it sounds like you really took us on a journey through the different seasons of your life and trying to figure out, okay, how can I show up as me in this season without trying to have that all or nothing mentality and have that perfectionism, and being able to help people now in that process. It's a really beautiful story at the same time. So I appreciate that. Well, let's take a moment to really dig into habits, women and habits, goal setting. We could go on and on and on for this. You and I are both speaking our love language today,
Yes.
Monica, but we want to really dig into why women have to do habits differently. I've said this over again. I've interviewed coaches on my show who have said this about so many different other areas of life other than just habits in general. And just even reflecting on my own journey and how I became a habit and fitness coach, it was really going through a transformational journey with my husband at the same time, and
Mm.
looking at him and being like, this seemed a little easier for him than
Yeah.
it did for me. Not to say it wasn't hard for him, but it was just different. And I wanted to, talk a little bit more about this principle and your take on it as far as why women have to do habits differently.
And that's why I love so much about when you initially reached out to me and I was able to go to your Instagram and see how much we have in common here, that we know this, which is a huge thing because a lot of people don't. They don't know that women must do habits differently.
Mhm.
There are a lot of reasons why. And we could spend a whole hour talking about biology alone, with our hormones and our cycles and everything that goes with them and how that impacts our energy levels and our time and even our quote unquote motivation, which I think is often twisted against us. But there is one umbrella reason. And this umbrella reason really is true for every woman on earth. And it has been true for every client I've worked with, whether they are a stay-at-home mom to really young children, to whether they're a middle-aged mom with grown-up children, or they're climbing the corporate ladder, or they're retired, or they're a grandma. Like, it has been true across the board. And it all goes back to what has actually been decades long worth of research about invisible labor. And I was cued into this years ago when I read a couple books, and I've read since many more, like Invisible Women by Caroline Criado Perez is really enlightening. Fair Play by Eve Rotsky is super good. The Moment of Lift by Melinda French Gates. I mean, I could go on and on, but there's also like meaty studies and research that you just like are reading like a scientific Bible almost. It's a lot to get through. But the short answer to this is invisible labor is the necessary but often not visible labor that is performed both mentally and literally that help keep households, communities, and society, really, even your workplaces afloat. And it's work that, as I already said, is undervalued, but it is often not just undervalued, it is underpaid or unpaid. And it's across the entire world that women carry the high majority of invisible labor. And this is transcendent to politics, religion, anything you can think of. It transcends everything. It's across the board. And there's a lot of reasons why, of course, and we could even get into that. But I think the thing that we need to take away from this is because invisible labor, we have to do habits differently. And you may be wondering, well, what's that connection? Because women carry the high majority of invisible labor, we have less time. This is not anecdotal. This is science. We have less energy. We have less dependability with our schedules because our responsibilities are so demand and urgent centric, largely because even if we don't have children, we still carry the high majority of invisible labor with relationships in our lives and even in our workspaces, like who plans your work parties? Okay. And so we have less time, we have less energy, we have less dependability. We also have less support. So we're doing a lot more with a lot less. And that means the traditional ways we have been taught habit formation do not work with those things. And we can get into more specifics, but that's really where we need to start. Again, many reasons, umbrella reason, invisible labor.
Yeah, there's so many different routes we can take with this for sure. But I think it's important to recognize, like I always give an analogy of all the tabs open in
Mm-hmm.
our head, right? And I have a lot of tabs open on my computer. And it was really funny. A couple of years ago, we were on fall break, and my husband was like, "Hey, babe, can I use your laptop to book a tea time for him and my oldest son to go golfing?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure. Go ahead, hop right on." I was like, "Just don't close any of my tabs." And he opened it and he was like, "What is wrong with you?"
Yeah.
He was like, "I don't know." He goes, "I don't even want to count how many are open." And I was like, "Well, that's what my head looks like at
Yeah.
all times." I was like, "These aren't just like projects I'm working on. This is, oh, I need to register one of our kiddos for winter cross country practice. And oh, I
Mhm.
need to make sure I pay that bill, and I need to call the dentist. And oh, I
We're
was
out of
work
toilet paper in this bathroom
I
and
mean, the
cleaning products in
dishes
this
are
one.
still
Yeah.
sitting there. I need to work out today, but oh, I gotta go run up to school and drop something off for a kiddo that forgot something. It's a lot where you just feel like that popcorn brain, or you're ping ponging all the time and you have all your
Mm,
tabs open. So when you read like a habit book, you're like, okay, great. I'll just create a habit loop. I'm going to be habit stacking using all the habit words
yes.
and habit trackers. But to open up one more tab, even if it's for yourself, there's the guilt part of that sometimes, but I think more so than anything is overwhelming. You're like, gosh, I can't open one more. I just cannot. It's too overwhelming.
Yeah, it's just another thing. And I also think, maybe we could take one of the biggest things, elements of habit formation
Yeah.
methods out there just to kind of illustrate it a bit. And I always like to ask this question, and it's, how long does it take to form a habit? Like, what's the number that pops into your brain right away?
Everyone says 21 days.
Yeah. I usually hear 21. I also hear 28,
Mhm.
20,
Yeah,
20 or 30. Sometimes I hear 100, very rarely. But no matter what, this is to illustrate we all have a number.
sure.
But that number is dependent on rigid consistency. You do the habit every day for 21 days, then you have the habit.
Mhm.
It does not account for all the things we just shared: limited time, limited energy, limited support, lack of dependability. I mean, even just the interruptions alone, I find is one of the biggest obstacles for women being able to have the consistency they need to form habits. So if we're looking at that number, and how it's designed on rigid consistency. We are set up to fail as women because either we're able to maintain it, but with even more energy than is required for other people, so that we burn out faster and we crash and burn after that 21 days is over. Or we get interrupted so soon in, or even halfway in, that we again fall off the wagon and we're paying the price for how we're being taught habit formation wrong when it's not us that's failing, it's these methods.
Mhm.
So to fix this, two ways we can do this is we have to redefine consistency. And consistency is not rigid. It's not rigidity. It's not rigid perfection. Consistency is doing your best most of the time over time.
Mhm.
And that means your best is allowed to change. It's allowed to change season to season. So you can do the same habit in different ways to match your season, whether it's meal planning or exercise or meditation. That same habit can be designed for your season's best. But your best is also allowed to change day to day.
Mhm.
And that's where we have to talk a little bit more about flexibility. That 21-day mentality, there is no flexibility. The habit's the same every day. Instead, on a micro level, we need to design our habits to be flexible themselves, even in a current season. So if you know meditation for this season is you would ideally like to meditate for 5 minutes a day, deep breathing for 5 minutes a day doesn't sound hard. But if you're in a season where your kids are all home from school because it's summer and you're getting interrupted right and left because it's not typical for you, then you know that's not going to be as likely, right? So we have to have, instead of just ideals, we have to have baselines.
Mhm.
And baselines are built-in flexibility for our habits. They are the smallest and simplest versions of them that we can do on our worst of days, when our time is the most limited, our energy is the lowest, our support is the worst, and we are getting demands right and left. So that will be different for each woman. And that's what's great about baselines is they are so subjective. So for meditation, for example, maybe it's I can do one deep breath. Now I know that sounds like almost laughably small. That's what a baseline should be, almost laughably small. Your baselines can build, like maybe eventually your baseline's 1 minute of deep breathing or 2 minutes of deep breathing. But having that baseline gives you the built-in flexibility you need so you can be consistent,
Mhm.
because habits still live and die by consistency, but that only works with flexibility. These are complementary things.
Mhm.
Consistency isn't possible without flexibility.
For sure. Well, and I think that's when women fall into the trap of all or nothing, or they think
Hmm.
something's wrong with me. Why am I always starting and stopping habits, especially with the women I work with in particular in regards to fitness. They're always
Yeah.
starting or stopping, or sometimes the diet culture industry is like this 30-day program, and then you try
Yeah.
it, you start for a week, like you get everything ready, or especially in the new year, you're trying to do it all, and then school's back in session, you got a big work project due, and you're trying to do it all. And yeah, you stick with it through January, but like you said, you burn out, and then you're like, I'm just not going to do it all. I just can't do
Yeah.
it. I can't do it at all. Then that leaves you feeling just so frustrated with yourself. And I love the baseline habits and how you said, make it almost laughably so tiny, because I really feel like you are still rewiring your brain to be like,
Hmm.
I am doing something versus nothing. It's adding up. We call them backup plans, especially when it comes to fitness. Like if I
I think
can't
it's great.
do my workout, I'm going to do a 5 minute like yoga flow. I'm just going to look up something on YouTube, or I'm just going to like do a dance party with my kids, and already having that in the back of your head. So when, things don't go according to plan, it's like, okay, well, I'm still doing something. So you're still creating that positive, reinforcement or habit loop or reward
Yes.
system in your head, versus like creating a negative habit loop where things get hard, I don't do anything, I feel like I'm failing. That
Yeah.
doesn't seem fair to us as women to keep doing that to ourselves. But I know I've done it. I know you've probably talked to so many women who have done it as well. And that's just why we have to do it differently.
Well, and you're pinpointing there why I didn't think I was a habit person for so long, because habits go deeper. It's not just
Mhm.
about our behaviors, it's about the way we see ourselves. It's about
Mm.
our identity. This is why I am still an identity coach, but also a habits coach, because they work together. You
Yeah.
know, when we're able to be consistent even with a different version, a flexible version of that habit, we're reinforcing the identity we want.
Mm.
Look, I'm a runner, I'm a reader, I'm a journaler, I'm a day planner. Like we're reinforcing that, but even bigger picture, we're reinforcing this way that we see ourselves in general. Like I follow through, I take care of myself, I'm dependable, I am consistent. And, this is a big part of the a big unexpected gift, I think, with helping women do habits differently is not just what they do with their habits, but how they see themselves. It is miraculous.
Mm. Well, and you read about creating your own habit identity and your habits supporting who you want to be. And maybe this is a good segue into talking about, everyone's within the new year and they're trying to stick to these new goals they have. Usually, a lot of times it involves a lot of healthy habits. Maybe it's time to take a step back though and think, okay, what is my habit identity? And it's like, okay, I am a patient and present mom, and I know when I move my body at least 15 minutes a day, which is literally like 1% of your day, if not less, I can do that. So
Yeah.
instead of, sitting here trying to reverse engineer your goals through like, I'm going to do these habits, I got my planner, I'm writing everything out with the pretty pens every Sunday, maybe taking a step back and be like, well, are these habits really supporting who I want to be? And more than
Mhm.
likely, it's going to, the more you do it and have the backup plan to be like, well, I didn't do like an hour workout like I wanted to do, or go meet my friends for a workout. I moved my body for 15 minutes. That's still going to help me be more patient and present for my kids today.
And one thing that will help with that, Emily, I think, is the way we even look at what habits are for. A big
Mm-hmm.
part of why I think we as women need to do habits differently is because for so long we have tied habits to our sense of self and our self-worth, right? And what we need to do instead of looking at habits as the things we support, as we have to strive to hustle and hold up and uphold, make sure they're doing well, is habits are there to support us. That is their purpose. And when we own that, that means we are able to do them in ways that actually are supportive of us. Instead of it just being about metrics or prescriptions, we can make our own prescriptions. How is this habit important to me? And because of that, how can I design it in a way that is reflective of what I actually want and need instead of what Sally down the street is doing or someone online who I like to follow but does not have the same life I have? So habits are supportive. That's going to shift a lot for you.
I love the way you look at that. That's so good. That would shift everything. It's not just like I'm just checking off. I'm supposed to do the habit. It's like
Mm-hmm.
this is who I am. And so more so once it starts to feel more natural to you, more of like who you are by doing these habits, then it starts to feel more like a lifestyle, maybe feels a little bit more second nature, like brushing your teeth.
Exactly. Then that's when it's really a habit, right? When you don't
Yeah.
have to think about it. Because if we're convinced we are not good at habits,
Mm.
take a look at your day and count up how many habits you have that you don't even count because they're habits. Do
Mm-hmm.
you start the dishwasher? Do you brush your teeth? Do you put on shoes? Do you get meals ready? I mean, go through the list because you are a habit person. There's just certain habits that are a lot more emotionally loaded. And I'm betting it has to do with a prescription that was given to you maybe back in grade school.
Ah.
Like we all know what those prescriptions are with sleep and exercise, nutrition, like they are really loaded. But these things matter still, right?
Mhm.
That's why you're in this work that you are in. And it's why you're here because you know the difference it makes to prioritize these, but in different ways. So that shift will enable you to do it in ways that are right for you and your season.
Yeah, I love that so much. Well, with it being the new year, everyone's working on their goals. And I want to leave everyone today with maybe a couple action steps to help them with becoming the person they want to be, their habits supporting that person as well, and to think about our goals differently as well. So,
Yeah.
you have a list you suggest people should be making instead of thinking about our goals as far as like smart goals and checking off the list and everything like
Yeah.
that. Can you share a little bit more with us about that?
Yeah. And I just want to say right off the bat that I love January joiners. Like if you're a January joiner, I think it's so
Oh, for sure.
fantastic. Like be a January joiner. There's nothing wrong with that.
Mhm.
The only thing that could be wrong is if you're following other people's methods that don't match you. So be a
Yeah.
January joiner for sure. But going back to this list that I advise women to make, I began this when I was not in a place where I could be a goal planner, where I was ready to make goals and resolutions for the years because I had had too many years of not doing them or being very disappointed in quitting like very early on or getting burnt out pretty quickly. So instead of making a goals list or a resolutions list, I made a do something list. And this was way more about uncovering and discovering myself. Like it's more about exploration than completion. It was more about that than achieving certain metrics or lines in the sand that I wanted to cross. It was about me. It was about brushing off the things that I'd always wanted to try, but I never dedicated the time, or I didn't because of fear, or because I was afraid of messing up or failure. And this is a list of things that just help you feel like yourself. Maybe you are prioritizing reading again, but instead of making a goal, you put something on there that makes it be more about exploration. Like, I'm going to read 10 pieces of fiction because that was what you used to love to read. And now you think that you have to only read nonfiction. So let's put something on there that's going to help you feel like yourself. My first list had things like try 20 new recipes because I always loved to cook, but I wasn't really good at exploring it. I had try 5 new ice cream restaurants because that was something I loved. Go to a museum because I almost went into museum studies. I even did an internship at the Smithsonian and stuff like that. So it was a way to brush that off the list. It was not something that was newsworthy. Like no item on that list was going to get me on any front pages. None of it was like life bucket items, like go kiss someone on the Eiffel Tower. Like I was already married, so that would be awkward. Or, hike Mount Kilimanjaro. Or it was not that kind of stuff. It was more about uncovering myself. It was about picking up the pieces that I had lost along the way. And one of the ways you can think of this is thinking about what do other people do that when I see them do it, I think I wish I could do that, or I wish I had the time to do that, whether that's quilting or something else creative like art, or maybe it's something fun like hiking again. It's very subjective again with every woman what their list looks like. And I have a free training on it that we can talk about at the end, but this list changes lives. It sounds so weird because I said this in the beginning, like it's about exploration, not completion. I have done this for, I think I'm going on my ninth or 10th year. I have never completed a do something list. I've never completed it. That's not the point. And also, it's not it's not it's not a concrete document. It's allowed to change. I tweak it throughout the year. I go through and I'm like, "Oh, this is more of a goal, so I'm taking it off and I'm going to put that on my goals list because now I actually am a goal planner." Spoiler alert, this led to other changes in my life. Um, or I like say, "Oh, that number was unrealistic." Like go on 10 days with my husband. Let's say 5. That's probably more realistic. Or my biggest thing for this year, let me tell you, 2023, I had a baby in January, and then my whole life changed, even though it was my 5th kid. I was like so unprepared for how much it was going to change my life. And it took me, by the way, that was a baseline year. I only went to my most important habits, and even those habits were baselines, like 10 minutes of movement a day, journaling gone, day planning gone, meal planning gone. It was about movement and showering, and that was it.
There you go.
Okay. So I
And
gradually
that's
built back up.
okay,
And it
right?
was,
And that's
yes, and that was
okay.
it. It helped me so much be who I needed to be.
Mm.
So anyway, I worked out, gradually building back up my habits. That was 2023. 2024, the biggest item I do something list was get out and get cultured. And I wanted to go to 10 get out and get cultured events. And that means I go to plays or musicals or to the symphony or a performance of some kind. And it has made me feel like myself in ways that nothing else could have on my list. And that it has been so good to feel like myself in that way again. And do you see how it wasn't about a traditional goal and it
Mhm.
wasn't a habit? And doing that has really helped me this year kind of heal from 2023, which I really needed. And I think my family needed too. So that's the point. And when I say it's changed my life, it's also changed hundreds of women's lives to just feel like themselves again.
Mm.
Don't underestimate the power of that.
Yeah, that gave me chills, especially when you said, I'm just going to all these events. And then I just felt more like myself. And we
Yeah,
all lose sight of that sometimes because we're so inundated with work and our identity as a mom with our kids and just all these other hats we wear. Like getting back down to truly who you are, not worrying about goal setting. Like you said, if you found a goal, putting that over on your goals list. That's really beautiful. Okay, I have to go do that now.
yeah,
For
do
the new
it.
year, a do something list. And I love that it's fluid. You can change it. That's such a great way of looking at the new year and just getting back to yourself and just feeling that positive energy, which will just spill over into so many other areas of your life.
For sure. And some women do it like by theme, like they have a
Mm,
year of creativity or a year of rest
mm,
or
oh,
a year of challenge. Like I had a year where somehow a lot of my items were about like physically challenging myself.
mhm.
But it doesn't have to be so theme
Yeah,
oriented. And I would encourage them, they can go to aboutprogress.com/DSL. And there's a free training and a workbook and tons of examples of real
mhm.
DSLs from women across my community. So you can just steal from them. You're just like, oh, I love that one, putting out my list. Oh, I love that
Sure.
one, putting it on my
Well,
list.
just sitting here talking to you, I'm thinking, okay, what would I put on my list? And I'm like, I feel like I need to look at some other people's ideas just to get
Yes,
an
there's a
idea.
lot
I
there.
love that. Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure. Well, I think this is really helpful and just so timely for this time of year as women are. I love January too. I love September. I feel like September is the other like
Yes,
new year part of the year because everyone goes
same.
back to school and you're back to the regular time of year. So it's always like September and January. And I love that because there's such a buzz and momentum. But just know, allow your habits to support who you want to be. Don't put so much pressure on yourself and consider being consistently, but having trying to be consistent with a lot of flexibility and grace built
That's
in
right.
as well
Yes,
with life because life will get in
yes.
the way. Well, Monica, where can everyone connect with you and find out a little bit more about you?
The biggest thing is to listen to my podcast. I am now approaching my 8-year anniversary, which is really
Wow.
um amazing and like wow, but we're, like I said, a personal development show that focuses on progress outside of perfectionism. And as you can hear, like I'm not a perfect podcaster. I stumble over my words, I stutter, there's things like that. So you will feel in good company there if you're not a perfect person. But it really is a community, so I'd hope they would go and listen to About Progress.
Super. Well, I'll make sure to link that in the show notes and I'll also link the do something list training as
That'd
well.
be
I'm going to go
fantastic.
do it myself just so
Yay.
I can create my own list. I love a theme too. We're going to have to try that out. So,
Yeah,
Monica, thank you so much for sharing your knowledge and your heart with my audience today. I so appreciate you.
it was a joy to be here. Thank you.
Y'all, wasn't that just so good? It was so, so good. Monica, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us. You guys can all go connect with Monica in the show notes. But as always, let's get into my three biggest takeaways. You can think of these as the cliff notes if you were driving or doing your dishes or doing all the things that us moms tend to do when we're listening to podcasts. So, number one, the overarching theme is that women have to do habits differently. And this is due to the invisible labor, right? She mentioned we're underpaid, undervalued. Women carry the majority across all fields. And due to this, traditional habit formation just won't work. We just can't go create a habit loop because whoopsies, something reactive happened in our day. We weren't able to do it, or we just don't have the mental capacity to do it one day just due to the season of life that we're in, right? So, a reminder, you have a little less time due to the invisible labor, less energy, less dependability with our schedules, less support, and we're doing a lot more with a lot less. So give yourself a little bit of grace and maybe take a big deep breath here with me and know that, oh my gosh, we just have to do it a little differently. Next, she mentioned 2 ways to fix the way we see consistency, right? We say that, oh, it takes 21 days to form a habit. Yeah, that's if you're doing the same thing every single day and it goes off without a hitch. Hence why women have to do habits differently. So the first thing she mentioned in order to fix this, more so in our mindset and to help us take action with our habits, is to redefine consistency. It's not perfection, right? It's doing your best over time. And it's okay to change what you're doing based on the season of life. The same habit can change depending on even just day to day, right? It's consistent flexibility, right? So, for example, I am in my progressive overload weight training mode. I am able to work out from home, and I'm also able to work out at the gym. I'm following my progressive overload programming I have inside of my Training for Life app. I don't only write the workouts, I do them myself. Remember, you can go get a free trial if you want to check it out at trainingforlifeapp.com. It's linked in the show notes as well. And I noticed as it started getting colder outside, I was not wanting to go to the gym. And I especially need to go to the gym on my leg days because I don't have the weights necessary to lift as heavy as needed here at home. And I was getting a little further behind, and that was okay. I just wasn't in the headspace. Also, we're in the midst of creating a luteal phase workout for all the members inside of the Training for Life app. So if you're following along with our programming and you're like, oh my gosh, it's the week before my period, I'm so worn down, I don't even feel like I could lift a weight, I got you covered with some more gentle workouts to help you still create that habit of doing some movement, but we're changing the way we're doing it, right? I'm still consistent, but I'm doing something a little different based off of my energy, based off my capacity. We see this happen a lot in the summertime as well, right? Our kids are home a lot of times. So what I was doing in the midst of the school year, I might just be, going on walks, or my kids are joining me at the gym because they're teenagers now and both the boys are interested in lifting and they lift together, which is really great. Or some days it's doing nothing and it's just hanging out with them, right? And that's okay. Doing a little bit over time is going to lead to so much more consistency in your mind and creating that habit loop in your mind where it's like, wow, I still did something, right? And that kind of leads me into her next point, was baseline habits, right? I have to move my body in some way every day because I know I am more patient, I am more present, the brain fog lifts, and I'm quicker on my feet, and I have a lot more energy throughout the day. But when that time is limited, your support, your energy, etc., we call these backup habits inside of my habit course, but as Monica mentioned, little baseline habits. So it allows you to be consistent. Actually the science behind habit strategy is doing the habit and leaning into how good you feel on the other side, that reward part of the habit loop. So even if you're not able to go to the gym and do that big leg day workout, maybe you were at home and you were able to do some body weight movement, or if it's meditation, like Monica used that example, maybe it's just I just sat down and took a few big deep breaths because that is my baseline habit to show me that I am doing something. And that proves to yourself in your head, I'm doing something versus nothing, right? It loses that all or nothing mentality. And lastly, I mentioned this at the beginning of our episode, I am working on this for 2025 for myself. We're in the midst of goal planning, right? You've maybe already set your goals. You're rocking and rolling with them. Maybe it's been about 19 days or that second Friday in February and you're like, I'm not doing it anymore. Okay, that's all right. However, completely eliminating the word goal setting from our mind from here on out, I love the idea of her do something list versus, strictly focusing on your goals or your to-do list. It's more about exploration versus completion. Like Monica said, doesn't that sound so forgiving and graceful? And it's doing things that make you feel like yourself. And the list is allowed to change. And I love how she maybe had a theme around it, like creativity, challenges, rest, etc. I'm in the midst of creating my do something list. I'm trying to see if there's an overarching theme. I haven't decided yet, but these are really just small little habits that will really help you just feel more like yourself. And we as moms just tend not to do really nice things for ourselves. And I feel like a do something list will just light you up and ensure you're filling your cup in such a simple way. No goals tied to it, just making you feel more like yourself. So let Monica and I know if you are going to be implementing a do something list this year. I know I will be working on it. Maybe I'll share it with you on my quarterly update later on in this year. So again, Monica, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom with us on why women have to do habits differently. Friends, I hope you feel empowered. I hope you feel maybe like a weight's been lifted off your shoulders, like I don't have to be perfect. I just have to focus on progress and just know you are doing the best you can. Oh, I am so rooting for you. Sending you a big virtual hug, my friend. I'll catch up with you in the next episode. I am so proud of you for listening to another episode of Habit Hack Your Health. I don't want you to just feel inspired, but I want you to go take action. To help you do that, go grab a free 7-day trial inside of the Training for Life app. This is habit-based fitness programming that you won't find anywhere else. A full fitness library with workouts programmed around what we need as midlife moms, and habit trainings and accountability community to help you stay consistent no matter what season of life that you're in. Go to trainingforlifeapp.com to start your free 7-day trial, and let's start training for life together. I'm so rooting for you, girl. I'll see you in the next episode.